right now, at the podium, always back to flash mode.
Flash, baby.
Right here, Tim.
Dwyane Wade.
Dwyane, have you, I'm guessing the answer to this is yes, but have you stopped to think about how many games you've played in the last 4 years? Not just this run, but, well, really the last 8 for you. You've had Olympics in there and, a lot of summers where you were playing ball. Have you thought about exactly how much wear and tear there is on you?
A lot of basketball. But all good things. I mean, I played in the Olympics. That's unbelievable. I played in a lot of finals games. I played in a lot of meaningful games. And I think that's how you want your career to go. So there's been a lot of basketball, but you wouldn't want it any other way.
Over on your left.
Dwyane, over here. We've talked about this before, but back in the finals, it seems like a good time to revisit it. Can you speak to Pat Riley's ongoing influence on the team and the franchise?
I can't say it again.
Can you speak to Pat Riley's ongoing influence on the team and the franchise?
Obviously his fingerprint is on his franchise, by the way that it's ran, by the way that his players and try to conduct themselves, on and off the floor. He's since I've been here, his aura is just around the franchise. His voice has lessened from the standpoint of being coach, but he will always be the Miami Heat, no matter what.
Chris here in the front.
Chris Broussard, ESPN. Dwyane, how much better physically do you feel heading into this year's finals than last year?
I feel better.
Percentage or?
No percentages. I feel better. That's my Greg Popovich moment.
Spears in the back.
Dwyane, how much has LeBron grown as a player and as a person since that first finals with you and against Dallas?
Oh, man, he's grown a lot. That was a tough finals for him, individually. I think he wanted it too bad. Sometimes when you want something so bad, it works the opposite. And he hasn't, besides getting 5 fouls in Game 5 of the Indiana series, he hasn't played that way since that finals. He's really taken his game to a whole nother level. Obviously, as an individual, he's grown. As a man, both on and off the court from his own experiences. Yeah. So I think he's done a phenomenal job, not only as his teammate and friend, but someone who's a fan of the game. If I sit back and look from afar, he's done an unbelievable job under the microscope that he's been under since he was 16 years old, of doing things his way and been very successful at doing them.
And also, much has been made of how the Spurs feel about Game 6 of last year. Do you guys reflect on it much and what happened in the comeback this season? Do you guys talk about that at all a lot? Or?
No, we don't. Game 6 was unbelievable to be able to come back and win that game. But that's the game of basketball. The ball bounces funny ways. Game 1, the shot that Tony Parker hit, that was unbelievable to get off the ground and hit that shot and just get it off. It's just the ball bounces in funny ways. And, we're thankful for, Ray Allen making that shot. But it was so many other things that had to play right for us to win that game. So, you need a little luck both ways, even to be in the finals. So, no, it's just, we was a recipient of luck and in that moment, but we won the championship, On
the right.
Dwyane, there's a lot of players in this series that are ultimately be on a lot of top 50 lists when people go back and look at it. Do you ever reflect just about sort of the level of competition and playing against another team that's competing to be one of the teams of this era like you've been in the last couple of years?
No, I really don't reflect, but I understand it and I know. It's hard to really take that moment to reflect about that, but we have tremendous amount of respect for this organization and what they've been able to consistently do, to be able to compete the way they have in a very tough Western Conference, to have been in the finals, 6 times since Tim Duncan's been here. I mean, that's unbelievable, and it doesn't happen every day. There's only a few franchises that has that success. So we understand, kind of, what this team represents, et cetera, but we also understand what we represent and the opportunity that we have as well. So I think it's great that these two franchises, have this opportunity in back-to-back years, to compete for a championship. Last year was an unbelievable series. I mean, like I said, it went down to the very end. I think we won the series by a total of 5 points, that's how close it was. But it was a very even series. And, I think this year it could be another great series as well. So, it's just great to be able to be in this same breath, as a franchise that myself and other guys, grew up kind of watching, and they still up there with us being in the lead now a decade, plus. So, unbelievable what they've been able to accomplish.
Standing over here on the right.
Dwyane, with Tim Grover being here in San Antonio, can you talk about the respect and trust you have in him and how he's helped you get back to where you say you're healthier than last year, and what kind of role he's had in your game?
Well, I mean, that's my guy, man. Everyone has someone that they trust outside of, kind of the norm. And he's the guy that I trust, when it comes to telling me things I might not want to hear or might not want to do. But also, opening my mind to different things. And so, I really, this year I really brought him in a lot. Other years has been, here and there. This year he's just been with me and really helping me, being able to do the things I want to do in my role on this team, and at times when I needed to do more, I've physically been able to do more. And at times when I needed to take a step back and not do more, then I haven't needed to. But he's been big in that. And, I thank him for giving up the time, to be with me, to be able to do that.
Dwyane, 2 questions for you over here on the right. One, you talked about how much LeBron has grown since the Dallas series. He's also grown again this year. Last year in this series, Pop sort of had him kind of in a little bit of a mind game for the first few games. If he tries the same thing this time, how do you think LeBron will respond differently?
Well, I don't know. I mean, each game, in a series is different. And I think, obviously, you can be prepared coming into a series. You can be prepared for what they did last year, but you can't be prepared for what they're going to do this year. So it may be something different. And just like last year, I'm confident that he'll figure it out. And
secondly, Tim Duncan was in here a little bit ago, and he just scratching his head like, I don't know what I said that was so bad, and why the Heat took it as motivation. Chris Bosh said, we'll always think about this. If we ever lose our focus in this series, we'll think about what Tim Duncan has said. How much do you guys use something like that? Yeah, Chris said that.
I don't know. You asked the wrong guy. I don't use that as motivation. I mean, I think when you're in the finals, you're supposed to think you're going to win. Tim Duncan believes that they're going to win. The Miami Heat believe that they're going to win. That we wouldn't be here. So I don't know. I just think we got microphones in our face too much.
Jeff, last question.
Dwyane, Eric is reluctant to talk about the difficulty of winning 3 in a row, playing in 4 in a row.
That's because he don't know.
Well, with that said, Pat does know. What have you heard from Pat over the years about doing that?
Absolutely nothing. He's letting us figure it out. He's letting us kind of go through this process and write our own story, in a sense. I mean, his story it's not complete, but his story it's pretty much there, in the sense of what he was able to accomplish. And I think he's letting Coach Spo and he's letting his team kind of, write our own book, in a sense. And, hopefully when it's all said and done, we can all share notes and see how we did it. But it's a lot of work to be done.
So he's never once said how difficult it is?
I mean, I maybe have.
But not to you.
Anybody could talk about how difficult it is to win 3. I mean, it's because it hasn't been done much. It's not something that happens, every 3rd year. This is something that, we know because of the history of the game that it's a small group, to be a part of. So, whether Pat Riley says it or anyone else on the outside that doesn't play the game of basketball says it, it's hard to win 3 no matter who says it in a row.
Thanks, Dwyane.
Thank you, guys.
All right, it's Dwyane Wade, and in order to win a 4th ring, Dennis, he had to let up. He had to acquiesce a little bit with his team when LeBron came aboard. How difficult is that to do, ultimately, especially when you've been the guy with a franchise?
In our game today and the way sports are, the ego is so fragile and so strong. So for D. Wade to win his first championship with Shaquille O'Neal and Alonzo Mourning at the end of their career, and now you have a chance to play with the king in the prime of his career and say, you know what, LeBron, this is your team. I know this was my team before you got here, but for us to be successful for longevity, this is your team. I'm going to take a step back, and I think that's pretty phenomenal.
Well, I think that speaks to the character of Dwyane Wade and understanding how important winning is to Dwyane Wade and not just numbers. Obviously, even going through the maintenance program this year with Coach Spoelstra, that's very difficult for a player that's as competitive as Dwyane Wade to say, hey, sit down, we don't want you playing, when they want to get out there and do what it is that they're paid to do. Now that opportunity with all that rest and all that anticipation of getting to the playoffs and the finals is among them. And so we'll see if Dwyane Wade is up for the challenge. Now, last year we talked about in the finals, in the minutes that Dwyane Wade played, actually the Miami Heat were outscored, but in the minutes, I'll rephrase it. In the 254 minutes that Dwyane Wade was on the floor last year, they were outscored by 54 points. In the minutes that Dwyane Wade was on the bench, and it was only 86 minutes, the Spurs were outscored by 49. So Miami's offense last year was much more potent when Dwyane Wade was off the floor, but that was Dwyane Wade of last year.
Right.
And this guy is so good. You remember Game 4, 32 points for him in Game 4 here in San Antonio. After a 36-point loss, Dwyane Wade had a signature performance to tie the series back up before going to Miami, and then he had subsequently had very good games to finish out the series. But it was that Game 4 last year where he was phenomenal.
All right, he had 25 in Game 5, then he closed in the closing game 23 points there. So he did show up, but like you said, a very different Dwyane Wade. That knee being drained, it was troublesome. I mean, he was struggling at times to get out on the floor and try to perform at a high level.
But don't ever think that greatness, you just cannot count out greatness, and that is Dwyane Wade. He is one of the all-time greatest two guards.